Hey all, it's WebCamParrot here to talk about one of my favourite verses, the Cthulhu Mythos. Now, I've been reading Lovecraft for a long time, to the point where I've read everything he ever wrote, including all of his letters, multiple times. And I think I have a pretty good understanding of the way that the verse works. Now, what I actually wanted to make, the video I actually wanted to make, was like a cosmology video where I explain the way that all the worlds and realms in the Cthulhu Mythos works, and where various beings and things are, and how powerful the verse is overall. But before I can make that video, I have to make this one, because if I don't, you guys in the comments will not shut up about it, and you'll keep asking me why. So we're doing this one first, where I'm going to address what I think is a myth regarding Azathoth, where he is seen as the supreme or most powerful being in the Cthulhu Mythos, or even sometimes as the creator of the whole mythos. I think this is incorrect, and that Yog Sothoth and a number of other characters are vastly beyond him. Now, there is some good reason to think that Azathoth should have this supreme position. It doesn't come from nowhere. However, it does seem to be influenced by a pretty huge myth surrounding Azathoth. I see quite a few people talk about everything in the Cthulhu Mythos being a part of his dream, and that the other gods need to play music to keep him sound asleep so that all of existence doesn't end. But this is simply never once shown to us in any of Lovecraft's writings. What we actually know about Azathoth is that he is that amorphous blight of nethermost confusion which blasphemes and bubbles at the centre of all infinity, the boundless demon sultan Azathoth, whose name no lips dare speak aloud, and who gnaws hungrily in inconceivable unlighted chambers beyond time and space. In Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Randolph Carter is exploring the Dreamlands and is tricked by Nyarlathotep into heading towards the ultimate chaos where Azathoth resides. Despite having godlike power in the Dreamlands, far beyond what is possible in time and space, like all proficient dreamers would, Carter is absolutely terrified of what would happen to him if he ever actually ran into Azathoth, and this seems to be his actual deal. This is what Azathoth is actually about. He's not some sleeping dreamer, he's a horrible, mindless, inconceivable and completely awake monster that lives in and is the very embodiment of ultimate chaos. That's why they call him things like the nuclear chaos, the blind idiot god, and the demon sultan. This confusion seems to come from a comparison that was made between Azathoth and a creation of the writer Lord Dunsany called Mana-Yood-Sushai. Robert Price, who is a Lovecraft scholar, seems to think that Azathoth was inspired by this character, and it's known that Lovecraft often talked about Dunsany and was inspired by Dunsany's work. In The Gods of Pagana, Mana-Yood-Sushai is the creator of everything in Dunsany's mythos, including the entire universe and all of the gods. After doing all of this creating, he went to sleep, and if Skal, the drummer, a god who was created for that purpose, ever stops drumming, Mana-Yood-Sushai will wake up and destroy the world to begin creating again. The one similarity between Azathoth and Mana-Yood-Sushai is that they both have music played to them. In the case of Mana-Yood-Sushai, it is to keep him asleep, but for Azathoth it's just stated that this music lulls him and keeps him calmer. Presumably because, he's a horrible monster that is an incarnation of pure chaos and would just destroy anything that came near him otherwise, and not because he is dreaming everything. It's also worth noting that Yog Sothoth is never mentioned amongst the gods that play music to Azathoth, or that they even remotely live in the same place, or that Azathoth should know anything about Yog Sothoth in the first place. However, despite this misconception, it's not entirely unreasonable to think that Azathoth might be the supreme being. For one thing, it's stated in The Haunter of the Dark that Azathoth is the lord of all things. However, this comes from a pretty dubious source, that being merely a legend that Robert Blake remembers. In the Dreams of the Witch House, it's stated in the Necronomicon that Azathoth is the ruler of all time and space, which is probably what Robert Blake is referring to anyway. And in the Cthulhu mythos, there are many, many realms completely beyond space and time. So this wouldn't make Azathoth the ruler of all that much, really, in the grand scope of things. The last piece of evidence is this letter that Lovecraft sent to James Morton, which includes a family tree that places Azathoth at the top of everything, including Yog Sothoth. But it's worth mentioning that this is only found in a letter and was never actually published anywhere in a story, and also that Lovecraft is making a joke with his friend. Morton had been joking that he was fortunate to be a descendant of the Roman god Jupiter, and so Lovecraft responded that he, unfortunately, only has demons behind him, and that he is descended from the black crawling chaos, which is why he includes himself in this family tree. The other problem here is that Lovecraft includes characters here like Tsathoggua, which is the creation of Clark Ashton Smith, who often wrote stories in the same universe as Lovecraft. But Smith has his own family tree for Tsathoggua that looks completely different, and has no mention of Yog Sothoth being related to him at all. However, the evidence for Yog Sothoth being the supreme being in the mythos is far less slim and vastly more explicit. In Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, we see Randolph Carter travel extremely close to Azathoth, only just barely avoiding running into him by leaping into the abyss of the Dreamland and waking back up in New England. However, at the start of Through the Gates of the Silver Key, a story that happens after Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, it's still stated that no man has ever reached the border of the ultimate gate, beyond which Yog Sothoth lives since ancient times. Not only that, but even going beyond the first gate was implied to be an experience that was completely baffling and on a new scale for Carter, again, despite already having travelled right up to Azathoth, only barely not reaching him. Not just this, but the gates themselves, which vastly transcend the worlds below them, are stated in the Dunwich Horror to merely be one part of Yog Sothoth's existence, with this quote saying that Yog Sothoth knows the gate, Yog Sothoth is the gate, Yog Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate, past, present, future, all are one in Yog Sothoth. In Through the Gates of the Silver Key, we find out that all beings exist merely as an infinite slice or facet of another greater version of themselves known as their archetype that lives in the ultimate void. For instance, Randolph Carter is merely one finite facet of an infinite being that is also another 8-year-old Randolph Carter facet, a Randolph Carter facet who is an alien from a previous universe living billions of years ago, the Randolph Carter facet that still remains in the trans-dimensional extension of the Earth beyond the first gate, and on and on and on. These archetypes then simultaneously have a similar relationship to the supreme archetype, also known as the All-in-One, Yog Sothoth. Perhaps, however, the most blatant proof of this kind of thing is in the same story, where it says, "It was an all-in-one and one in all of limitless being and self, not merely a thing of one space-time continuum, but allied to the ultimate animating essence of existence's whole unbounded sweep, the last utter sweep which has no confines, and which outreaches fancy and mathematics alike. It was perhaps that which certain secret cults of Earth has whispered of as Yog Sothoth, and which has been a deity under other names. That which the crustaceans of Yuggoth worship as the Beyond One, and which the vaporous brains of the spiral nebulae know as an untranslatable sign. Yet, in a flash, the Carter facet realized how slight and fractional all of these conceptions are. This is a discovery that Randolph Carter makes after actually going to the ultimate void and receiving the ultimate mystery from the All-in-One. This isn't just a legend or myth about Yog Sothoth, like the previous statements for Azathoth. This is something that Carter directly saw himself. So not only should Yog Sothoth be beyond Azathoth, but all of these beings and archetypes living in the ultimate void should be too, and even they are only one part of what Yog, the All-in-One, represents. Within the Cthulhu Mythos, Yog Sothoth literally is everything, and this starts to add up when you consider that Lovecraft's own preferred term for his verse was the Yog Sothothery. Anyway, this is a shorter video than normal, as there's just less content to go over for it, but I hope you all enjoyed anyway, and hopefully in the future I'll be working on a Cthulhu Mythos or Yog Sothothery cosmology video, where I'm going to go more in depth on what these characters are like and how strong they are and the sorts of things that they can do. But in any case, I will see you all in the next one.